Meet the new BMW 4 Series Gran Coupe. It joins the two-door coupe and convertible in the 4 Series range and is predicted to be 50% of the 4 Series sales. It has awesome engines, is great fun to drive, space for family and luggage, but a very controversial front end. Okay, let's deal with the elephant in the room. That nose. Now, we've seen it on the regular 4 Series Coupe and the M3, but it still comes as a bit of a shock. The grey paint on this car and the extra black details on the Shadowline trim pack do take away some of the impact, but those flared nostrils are always going to be polarising. At least though, it's a nod to some of the car's heritage. Putting the looks to one side, let's see if it's a good car. But before we do that, remember to subscribe, like, so that you catch all of our latest videos. Just click up there. There aren't really that many rivals for the 4 Series Gran Coupe. The Audi S5 Sportback gets closest, and for cheaper options you could take a look at the Volkswagen Arteon and Kia Stinger, but that's about it. Engine options include the 187 brake horsepower 420d, the 181 brake horsepower 420i, the 242 brake horsepower 430i, and the full fat 369 brake horsepower M440i. The diesel 420d and this engine get mild hybrid assistance, but there's no plug-in hybrid version available. Styling is an important part of any car calling itself a coupe, and no matter what you think about that nose, there's no denying that the Gran Coupe is a striking car. If you were only concerned about styling, you would probably go for a two-door 4 Series. However, if you're looking at one of these, the boot is probably important. And that's actually why I bought the previous generation, because look at this massive hatchback tailgate. You can shove a load of stuff in there. So even though it's only got 10 litres less than the 3 Series, the space is actually more usable. And it's quite big, it's 470 litres, which is 30 litres more than the two-door 4 Series. Fold the rear seats down and you can increase that load capacity to 1,290 litres. The 40-20-40 split fold rear seats add a useful amount of versatility too. Now, the word coupe normally means that things are going to be a bit tight back here, but I have my own door. So there's no awkward climbing through the front door. And once here, there's actually quite a lot of space. In fact, it's slightly taller than the 3 Series, so despite its sleek coupe looks, there's enough headroom for even fairly tall people. You're well catered for back here too, with a couple of USB ports and your own climate controls. If we're being critical, these optional M Sport seats do restrict your view a little bit, and it is quite dark back here. But this car is more about the driver, and I'd rather be sitting in the driver's seat, so let's see what it's like up front. These seats are better for those sitting up front. They're supportive without having awkwardly tall side bolsters. There's plenty of adjustment and we think they look great. But if you want to save yourself £750, then the standard sports seats are also very good. The interior design isn't exactly what you'd call minimalist. There are buttons everywhere and it all looks a bit cluttered, but it feels very well put together indeed, and it works just brilliantly. From the steering wheel controls to the temperature buttons to the old-fashioned shortcut buttons for the radio, it's all easy to find and easy to use. It's a good kind of cluttered. And let's take a moment to talk about iDrive controllers, shall we? So you can control it with touchscreen or voice if you want to, but everything can be controlled here by twisting, pushing and clicking. And because everything is displayed on the instrument cluster, you barely need to take your eyes off the road. It is brilliant. The 4 Series is pretty well equipped as standard too. Every car gets leather seats, cruise control and 3-zone climate control for a start. There's also a digital instrument cluster that can be configured to show whatever information suits your mood. A 10-inch central screen with built-in sat-nav plus Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Of course, you can dip into the BMW optional extras list, and this car is absolutely dripping with them. First of all, you've got automatic laser beam headlights, and then there's a technology pack which includes self-parking, wireless phone charging, adaptive cruise control that also steers, Harman Kardon stereo system. Oh, and there's the Comfort Plus pack which includes electric memory seats and a heated steering wheel. All this and a few other cosmetic bits and bobs comes to just under £10,000. That makes this particular car more than £63,500. Steer clear of the options list and it costs a more manageable £53,000. And if you don't feel you need all the power that this M440i model offers, then the 420D version starts at just over £40,000, which sounds almost sensible. But enough about costs, let's go for a little drive. Get out on the road and you quickly understand why this car costs so much more than a 420D. It's the engine. It is an absolute peach. It's got 369 brake horsepower, and that is coming from a turbocharged 3-litre straight six. 0 to 60 is done and dealt with in 4.7 seconds, but it feels faster. And when you really get high up the rev range, which we should be able to do in a minute because we're coming up to a straight, it absolutely sings. I can't go any faster at the moment because there's a car in front of me. But in a minute, I'll put my foot down. It's also quiet and refined when you want to chill, and it pulls really well from pretty much any speed. That's partly thanks to the standard 8-speed automatic gearbox, which is smooth when you're putting around and impressively responsive when you want to drive with more enthusiasm. That response is partly thanks to the fact you can make crisp, clean gear changes with these paddle shifters, like so. Drop it down in a second. Now, remember I promised you that engine note. Oh, it sounds beautiful. Anyway, there are also a number of different driving modes that you can select, which tweak throttle response, steering response, and gear shift mapping. So you can really set the car up for a sporty feel, comfortable, or eco-friendly mode. There's also adaptive suspension on the M440i and M Sport Pro, which means the stiffness of the suspension and therefore how sporty it feels can be adjusted. In a lot of cars, adaptive suspension means choosing between bone-shakingly firm and too soft. In the 440i, however, it's a very different story, because in comfort mode, you can soften things up without sacrificing too much body roll. And then when you're feeling in a more sporty mood, you can really firm things up without making it too jarring. The only part of the driving mode package that doesn't work quite so well is the button marked adaptive. This continuously adjusts the settings of the throttle, steering, gear shift and suspension to suit how you're driving, which in reality means you're never quite sure how the car is going to respond. Leave everything in sport mode and the M440i really impresses. It's slightly longer and wider than the 3 Series, so it's slightly more stable in the corners. And on top of that, there is plenty of grip, thanks in no small part to the excellent standard 4-wheel drive system. These optional 20-inch alloy wheels, meanwhile, look great and don't completely ruin the ride, although the car is noticeably more comfortable on the standard 18-inch wheels. This car has got an electronically controlled locking rear differential, which basically means it's got more traction coming out of the corners, which helps it to feel more agile. Lower spec cars do still do a great job without it. However, it is undoubtedly giving the car a greater, sportier feel with it. Talking of lower spec cars, the 420D will give you around 58 miles per gallon in rear-wheel drive form, or around 55 miles per gallon in xDrive 4-wheel drive spec. A 420i or 430i petrol can manage around 40 miles per gallon, while the best you'll get out of the M440i is around 35 miles per gallon, as we've seen somewhat less when driving moderately enthusiastically. There is no doubt that the 4 Series Gran Coupe, like the regular coupe and the BMW 3 Series Saloon it's so closely related to, is an absolute hoot to drive. In M440i form, it's easily got the measure of its closest rivals. The Audi S5 is unfashionably diesel-powered, and the Kia Stinger, while a massive bargain compared to the BMW, isn't quite as polished a product. But what if you can't quite stretch to the top spec model? Well, the good news is what makes the M440i so excellent also applies to cheaper models in the range. Yes, you will miss out on that engine. However, if you want a sleek, well-built coupe that's also practical and great fun on country roads, then there are few better cars out there, providing you can handle the front-end styling, that is. But what do you think? Is it a face you can learn to love, or is it brilliant anyway? Let us know what you think about the BMW 4 Series Gran Coupe in the comments below. And if you're considering buying a used one, or indeed any car, head to cargurus.co.uk to find loads of great deals from top-rated dealers, including approved used examples.